Sometimes the scariest moments don't come from haunted houses or ghost stories. Sometimes they're broadcasted live from a place you thought you could trust, the face you grew up watching, a voice you knew by heart. And all it takes is one wrong click. I wasn't supposed to be there. Not really. Not in the way they meant. When I got the message, I assumed it was another algorithm-flavored prank. One of those industry trolling bots that find struggling artists and pretend to offer them deals, collaborations, miracles. It came through a strange burner account. No followers, no posts. Just a DM. Selena's hosting something private. You've been chosen. No salutation. No mention of my name. Just those words and a single link. It didn't lead to Instagram, TikTok, Zoom, YouTube, not even Discord. Just a generic landing page that flickered for a second before going black. I didn't click join. There wasn't a button to click. The screen just blinked again, and I was inside. No countdown. No other viewers listed. No usernames in the chat. Just me and a black screen. I should have exited right there. I should have closed the laptop, deleted my socials, and never looked back. But I didn't. Because I was tired of trying and getting nowhere. Tired of watching people blow up overnight while I spent years layering beats that no one listened to. If there was the slightest chance that someone like Selena Gomez, a literal megastar, had heard my work and wanted to include me in something, I had to see it through. Even when the page froze. Even when I couldn't click anything. Even when my camera light blinked on without warning. When the video feed started, I thought it was a mistake. It wasn't Selena. Not right away. The screen lit up grainy and slow, revealing a circular room that looked nothing like a studio or a live stream setup. No LED panels, no ring lights, no plants or playful decor. This place looked ancient. The walls were velvet, not wallpaper, but thick, almost soundproof. Candles stood in copper holders spaced in a perfect spiral, casting shadows that swayed as if reacting to something I couldn't hear. In the center of the room, hanging from the ceiling by a thick black cord, was a golden microphone. Not the kind you sing into at concerts. This one looked ceremonial, like it had been forged in a temple and buried for centuries. At first, the feed showed no movement. I thought maybe it was a placeholder, a static setup before the real event started. Then, something changed. A flicker. A gust of breath. The microphone twitched. Just barely. Then again. Like something was pulling it gently from above. And then, I heard it. Not static. Not ambiance. It was a sound I'll never forget. Slow, wet, hollow, like someone breathing through tangled wires submerged in water. It came from the mic. That's when she walked in. She wasn't smiling. She didn't look like the version of Selena Gomez you see on red carpets or magazine covers. Her expression was unreadable, focused, almost solemn. Her skin glowed with that unnatural, polished warmth you usually associate with makeup lighting. But there were no lights in the room. Just the candles. She wore a long gown that shimmered like liquid gold. Not sequins, not silk. It moved like something alive, slick, dense, heavy. And even though her bare feet touched the carpet, I couldn't hear a single step. She stopped in front of the microphone. Just stood there. Didn't acknowledge the camera. Didn't speak. She placed her fingers around the golden frame, and the air in the room seemed to change. The flames of the candles bowed inward, like they were breathing her in. And then she whispered, "We're ready now." I felt it in my teeth. That sentence, the way she said it, not like a performer, like a priestess, like a host welcoming something unseen into the room. And when she turned her head, just slightly, I saw her eyes, wide, focused, empty, like something else was looking through them. The door opened behind her. It didn't creak. It sighed, like it didn't want to open but had to. They came in, one by one. Not announced, not introduced, but instantly recognizable. First came a daytime television host whose voice had been a background hum in my house for most of my childhood. Her posture was stiff, her arms hanging unnaturally at her sides. She didn't look at Selena, didn't look at the mic, just walked straight into position in the circle and stood still. Next came a singer whose name had been in every tabloid a few years back, now a ghost of their former self. He walked with his head down, mouthing something silently, like he was rehearsing a prayer. Then, a woman known more for her lifestyle brand than any real talent. She paused before stepping onto the rug, removed her shoes, and walked barefoot like she was entering a sacred space. The last to enter was Diddy. He didn't walk like the rest of them. He glided, not smoothly, wrongly, like gravity didn't quite work on him the way it did for everyone else. He stood in front of the microphone, not moving, not blinking. And then he turned, not to Selena, not to the others, to the camera, to me. I froze, my screen flickered. I tried again to exit the window, but there was no way out. No keys worked. I even reached behind my laptop to yank the Wi-Fi cable, but it wouldn't budge. My hands were shaking. My room was freezing. Then Diddy smiled, not with his mouth, but with his eyes. And the microphone swayed again. It was breathing, and I was stuck. The guests didn't speak. Not a single word had passed between them, and yet they moved as if cued by the same invisible conductor. Their heads swayed in sync. Their shoulders lifted and dropped in identical rhythm. It looked choreographed, but no one was in charge. Selena stepped backward, giving space to a man I hadn't noticed enter the room. Clive Davis. He walked with the slow certainty of someone who'd done this dozens of times before. In his hands was a box, matte black, smooth, no logos, no hinges. It didn't look like it opened. But when he placed it at the center of the circle and pressed gently at its corners, it unfolded like a flower blooming under pressure. Inside was a small glass vial, glowing faintly. Not from within. The oil inside seemed to absorb light instead of reflect it. Its surface shimmered, but it wasn't beautiful. It was wrong. Dull and heavy, like looking into something that had been buried too long. Clive lifted the vial with both hands, and that's when the whispering started. Not out loud, not from anyone's mouths. It filled the room without touching the air, like the sound was being projected directly into my brain. I clutched my headphones, pulled them off, but it didn't stop. It was deeper than hearing. It was internal. I watched as Clive dipped 2 fingers into the oil and walked to Diddy. He marked his forehead just below the hairline and whispered, "You're ready now." Then he turned to the others, one by one. No hesitation. Each time the oil made contact, the person shivered, like something had entered them or left. Behind Clive, the golden microphone began to swing wider. Its chain creaked like an old rope under tension. The symbols beneath the rug were no longer hidden. They were blooming, crawling out from beneath the fibers in jagged spirals, pulsing faintly in time with the guests' movements. Clive opened the book. It wasn't in English. It wasn't in Latin. It wasn't in anything that should have made sense. Yet I understood it. I could feel every syllable vibrating in my bones. The words weren't being spoken. They were being broadcasted, like a signal transmitting across the skull. He chanted slowly, methodically. His voice layered over itself as if there were more than one of him speaking at once. And then it spread. The guests began to move their lips, but they weren't speaking. The sound didn't match their mouths. It was like they were lip-syncing to something already happening inside the room. A looped incantation that twisted deeper with every round. One of them, a well-known media mogul, started to tremble. He clutched his chest, his knees buckled, and yet he kept standing. Another guest, an actress, reached into the circle and poured the oil down the front of her dress like it was water. No one reacted. No one helped her. No one even looked. That's when I noticed the chandelier. It was moving, not from wind or force. It rotated slowly, clockwise, like a compass needle being turned manually. Each swing of the light cast long, warped shadows across the velvet walls. They stretched unnaturally. They moved on their own. And all of it, the chanting, the movement, the whispers, was being pulled toward the microphone. Not recorded. Consumed. For the first time, something changed. Something unexpected. Upstairs, in what I assume was the real world, not the sanctified bubble of that ritual chamber, someone was pounding on a door. Loud, urgent. 2 security guards appeared on the feed from another angle. Their faces looked panicked, confused. One shouted something. The other banged on the door with both fists. They were locked out. Too long, I muttered to myself. They've been locked out too long. The guards moved down a hallway. My screen split, showing them approaching another corridor. The one that supposedly led to the broadcast feed. I held my breath. I don't know why I was nervous. Maybe I thought they'd break in and stop this thing. Maybe I wanted them to. The door handle behind them jiggled. Stopped. 10 seconds passed in silence. Then, footsteps, slow, quiet, retreated from the hallway. But the audio feed picked up something else entirely. A new breathing. Not the microphone. Not the guests. Something deeper. Something behind the walls. Something that had been waiting for this moment. Prince once called it the naming. You give it shape, and it shows up. They weren't just performing a ritual, they were feeding something. I don't know why this moment broke me. Maybe because it was the first and only human moment in that whole performance. Clive had anointed everyone else. Then he reached Ellen. She didn't resist, didn't flinch. She bowed her head like the rest. But as Clive's oil-stained fingers touched her forehead, something shifted. She cried. Just one tear. It slipped from the corner of her eye and traced a straight line down her cheek. No sob, no sniffle, just that silent expression of something too deep to explain. No one acknowledged it. Clive moved on like she was a coat rack. The rest of the guests stared ahead, frozen. The ritual continued, but I saw it, and I couldn't stop watching. The chandelier above began to shake again, not just rotate. Now it trembled like it was trying to escape the ceiling. The camera feed flickered, and for one split second, the entire room appeared upside down. When the image returned to normal, Clive's hands were slick with oil. His eyes, normally calm, were wide and glassy. His lips moved faster now. The book glowed faintly in his hands. The guests, still in a trance, began rocking back and forth like a slow, silent sea. And then, just as quickly as it began, everything stopped. Clive closed the book. The microphone stopped swaying. The guests turned and walked out, one by one, wordless, covered in oil. The stream ended, but the silence that followed, it didn't feel like peace. It felt like a warning. The stream ended. The black screen returned, just as it had started. But now, it wasn't empty. It was humming. Not visually, not audibly, viscerally. Even after I closed the laptop, unplugged the charger, and tossed it on my bed, I could still feel it. Like static on my skin. Like something had watched me back through that screen and didn't want to let go. I didn't sleep that night. I kept pacing around my room, checking the corners like something might be waiting. My own reflection started to feel unfamiliar. My phone buzzed 3 times that night, all from unknown. I didn't answer. In the morning, I checked my socials. Nothing. No hashtag trends. No Reddit posts. No BuzzFeed articles. It was as if the event had never happened. No one was talking about it. No one had seen it. And I started to wonder, was I the only one watching? I opened my laptop and went back to the link. It was dead. 404. Page doesn't exist. I checked my browser history. Gone. Not just the stream. Everything from the last 24 hours was wiped clean. Even the screenshots I took during the stream were corrupted. Just black rectangles with warped timestamps. That's when I noticed the change to my files. My last music project, the one I'd been working on for months, had disappeared from my DAW. Every draft, every save, even the backups on my external drive were missing. Instead, in one empty folder, sat a single MP3 file I didn't recognize. It had no name, just a dash. I played it. It was static at first, then breathing, then the sound of a candle being snuffed out, and then silence. That's when the notification popped up. You've been heard. No sender. No pop-up trail. It vanished before I could even screenshot it. I stared at the screen, frozen, because in the faint reflection of my monitor, I wasn't alone in the room anymore. There was something standing behind me. I didn't turn around right away. I couldn't. But I watched the figure in the monitor, tall, dark, vaporous, with eyes that didn't glow, didn't blink. They just watched, patiently, like it had all the time in the world. When I finally spun in place, nothing was there. But when I looked back at the monitor, it was closer. Every mirror in the house reflected it. No matter where I went, how I turned off the lights or covered the glass, it was there. A few steps behind, never moving, never gone. And the worst part, it had no face. Just empty space where a mouth should have been. But I could hear it humming. That same chant from the live stream. Looping. Low. Inside my chest. The next morning, I smashed every mirror in my apartment. Took the curtains down. Slept with the lights on. Or at least tried to. I hadn't spoken to anyone. I hadn't left the house until the headline dropped. It started with a whisper, a tweet with barely any likes. Why is no one talking about Selena's private live stream? Then a flood. A Reddit thread surfaced where someone claimed their sister worked in production for a confidential event hosted by Selena's team. She'd quit the next day and refused to talk about it. Then came the leaks, blurry photos of velvet walls, half-lit shots of what looked like gold cords dangling from the ceiling. One post included a photo of the microphone. Exactly how I remembered it. A journalist, anonymous, claimed they'd been investigating ritualistic patterns in Hollywood live stream content. They'd tracked a rise in unscheduled, undocumented streams featuring strange frequencies embedded in the audio, all linked to former child stars, label executives, and a specific room layout with circular rugs and no windows. The same layout I saw in Selena's feed. The same sigils that crawled under the carpet. But before the post could go viral, it vanished. The subreddit shut down. The journalist's profile deleted. Their name never mentioned again. And the live stream? Still missing. As if it had never happened. But I remembered every second.